go rip the Band-Aid off today. It's going to be miserable for a couple weeks, but guess what? You're going to become a better company because of it. And that's trusting your gut. That's making the changes. That right seat, right bus matter. Because think of it, if someone's on the right bus but the wrong seat and they're miserable, what does cancer do? It goes in and affects everybody. And you got to change that as a business owner.
So if you're listening, think of this, is that your company as the bus, and as you scale and get bigger, you can even use your department as a bus. And every seat in there has a designated title, responsibility, has KPIs to measure the production of input and output of that job responsibility, and it has the pay.
Welcome to the Premium Mindset, the weekly podcast where homegrown entrepreneurs and business owners Evan Ritchey and Cameron Bawden share the good, the bad, and the ugly of modern entrepreneurship and reveal what really happens behind the scenes of their personal and professional lives. As owners of two of America's fastest growing and most disruptive companies, Coconut Cleaning and Green Mango Pest Control, stay tuned for real stories, struggles, insight, and advice from real entrepreneurs in real time.
If you're running your business like a madman and you don't know where to put certain people and you're firing people left and right, then listen up, because we're going to talk about right bus, wrong seat, and how it can save you in your business. So Terrence stopped by, owner of TI Fitness. Would you say long-standing friend?
Not a friend, just an acquaintance. I'm just kidding. No, T's been a really good friend for at least 6+ years now.
Okay. So I don't know if he was just offering a little golden nugget, before I left to my meetings, but I quickly gave you a rundown of a situation that we're in with one of our departments. And I said, hey, this is what I'm going to go meet on. If you want to join, you can. And he interjected and said, hey, if Cameron didn't show up, what would be the best decision? And the response was that historically at Hype Farm, due to the nature of small business, and I'm sure a lot of small business owners do this, is that when you scale and when you grow, you don't always do it properly with infrastructure in the right positions. And maybe a family member or you get a top talent person that comes along and a position is created around that person, rather than, hey, this is the next level of our business and it needs to have this department. What are the roles and responsibilities and KPIs of that department? I feel like historically we've just made positions because someone is fitting for a certain role that we don't even have defined.
And I think this has been our biggest problem, and it's still one of our biggest problems right now, is that a position that's opened up because of growth needs a person in there, right? Yeah. But we're too cheap to hire a full-time person. Yeah. So we say, hey, this guy's really good at this and he would be really good at that, or girl. And let's just tell him to allocate 2 or 3 hours to that, because it's not quite warranted for a full-time position. And we've got into some trouble doing that. Yeah.
And you were in Mexico last week, but because you weren't able to see the example, we had some fun. I wrote down around 90 to 100 different responsibilities that naturally occur when running a business. From scanning new hire paperwork all the way to hiring, firing, write-ups. And I wrote up individual responsibilities. And on the whiteboard, I put down every single department that we have. And I put a number next to it, like 1, inside sales team, 2, customer service, 3, branch manager, 4, field manager, 5, technician, 6, billing. And I just went down the list, right? And then I would put on the TV a role or function that occurs on the daily. And I said, what department? What? I said, what? Yeah. So I said, what department does collections? They're like, billing. So I started easy. I said, okay, what department is over influencers getting scheduled? And 3 people, like marketing, CSRs, and routing. And then everyone kind of look at each other. This is what happens in business. So to your point, when you're scaling and growing, we find out that, hey, we need someone to audit. Let's have that manager be the manager and the auditor. And then, sometimes it's in the manager's best interest not to throw their department under the bus. So then we realized that they probably shouldn't be the auditor. So let's have another person audit. And you don't really know how to define the position yet or how many hours it should be. And that's been one of our growing pains as well. So 13 or 14 years in?
13, Green Mango?
Yeah.
Yeah, 13.
So 13 years in business, how has the relationship changed for you between saying this is going to be the next phase of Green Mango? These are probably going to be the positions that come. What's your approach now with, are you going to give those responsibilities to someone, or are you just going to roll the dice and start a whole new position and posting for a responsibility that you haven't, learned to understand entirely?
Well, if money wasn't an issue, then it would be just hire a person for that position.
Yeah.
And this is where, when I was going through the coaching with Mark in 2017, 2018, he introduced the principle, right bus, wrong seat.
Yeah.
So meaning, hey, this guy's a good guy, but you just have him in a role that isn't fitting for him. So instead of just saying, hey, this guy shouldn't work for us, it's just, let's move him to a different department.
Right.
And that's what has brought a lot of clarity and a lot of peace of mind, knowing that if we can just cycle people in different positions, if they're not performing well, then it's going to help us out. And that's what's been fun about having Hype Farm with all the other companies. Some of our greatest people at Coconut, Sherry being one, was interviewed first at Green Mango. And I said, hey, I can see that you're a very, very talented person, but I think Coconut could really benefit for someone like you. Right. And that's not to say she wouldn't have worked out at Green Mango, but she wouldn't be in the position that she is now, looked at as, as a key role, because Green Mango was kind of already built, but she was able to slide in, work hip to hip with you for those first few years still today. And, there's been massive growth and a lot more responsibility given to her. And that's the ideal situation of right bus, right seat. Now, there has been some people that we've talked about, right, where because they're talented at sales, let's take that, because that happens a lot. Mm-hmm. If someone's moving the needle in sales and they're helping, the team come together and they're doing all these activities and they're generating more revenue and they're doing all these trainings, one of your first thoughts is he would be a great manager.
Yep.
But most salesmen don't like to sit in an office all day. They don't like to manage. They're horrible at administrative work. And that's what happens all the time in business. It's still happening today for us, is that we put people in the wrong seat on the bus and they're miserable and we're miserable. And if you don't catch it fast enough, then the company ends up firing them.
Yeah.
And that's the problem, is because then you go through this whole process of finding someone else. You have the whole onboarding process. Yep. You hope that they're a good fit for culture and all these different things. And that's where I would just encourage people that are listening to this, that have employees. If you're frustrated with an employee, your first question shouldn't be, are they right for the company? It's, are they in the right seat? Are they in the right department?
I think that's a great point, because I feel like we have a lot of instances where maybe we fire someone because they're not performing, and then we're sitting there thinking, did we give them all the training? Did we get them all the resources they needed to excel? There's a lot of variables that go into scaling as a company, but I want to pivot to, I think, something that you've been really big on pushing into the company that I think helps us better understand who our people are. I think as it pertains to right seat or right bus, wrong seat, and even making the match of, hey, right bus, right seat, is you have to know your people. You have to have KPIs in place to know if they're performing or if they're not performing. But also sometimes you have instances where people are performing, but they're not really happy. You have instances where people they love their job because they're not really being watched and monitored, and they're happy doing exactly what they're doing. And you know that them as in their character is not a right fit for the company. But why have you pushed PPFs and helping all the managers see the importance of getting to know their people as it pertains to right bus, right seat?
Well, the PPFs are personal goals, professional goals, and financial goals.
Correct.
And that's just a good platform that Jason Payne told us about that he uses to get to know his people. I'm sure there's a ton of different ways, but that's because, like we're saying, if someone's in the wrong seat, we're frustrated with them. Someone could be doing a great job, but they could be having, they could have so much more talent and skill to where they could be moving up to that manager role and providing that much more value. And, you know, I think about Emma in the marketing part, Maddie and Emma, you know, like look at how they came in with the store and now they're getting opportunities to run our social campaign. Yeah. And it was you know, shame on me for not knowing her better, but like come to find out she's got this huge following for like eyelashes TikTok or something on TikTok. And she's like this amazing content creator, like networker, whatever. And
just because she's so quiet,
she's
like, if
quiet,
you walk by, you wouldn't know.
You know, they don't like coming to the company. If they come to the company parties, they want to be working the event. They don't want to do the social stuff. And so naturally, like people like that, you don't see them as a business owner. They're, you know, they come in, they do their job, they leave, and there's nothing wrong with that. But she's got so much talent. And I don't know if it was you or Kate or who found it, but it's like, hey, this person would be amazing. Let's promote her to do our social media content stuff. And let's find someone else to help out with the store and help out with the packets and everything else that we do. And that's right seat, right bus and the power of knowing your people. If you don't know your people, then you don't know if they're in the right seat or if they're not leveling up the way that they should.
Yeah. And I love this. And I'm glad that you brought up Emma, because I feel like the marketing department is where we've had a few hidden talents. But so if you're listening, think of this, is that your company as the bus, and as you scale and get bigger, you can even use your department as a bus. And every seat in there has a designated title, responsibility, has KPIs to measure the production of input and output of that job responsibility, and it has the pay. And what I love about this is that we had an internal referral for our inside sales position. And it was this lady said, hey, you should interview my boyfriend. I think he'd be great for that spot. Because we know what that seat is for pay, for expectations and responsibility, I knew within 5 minutes of talking to him that he wouldn't be a good fit because of who he is as a person and his qualifications and what he's seeking financially. Mm-hmm. Within 5 minutes, he said, hey, this is who I am. This is what I enjoy doing. I said, what pay are you seeking? And the pay he was seeking was way above that. So I would have done all of us a disservice sitting there for another 30, 45 minutes saying, yeah, well, we really think you'd be great. You're overqualified, but we'd love to have you. And then at the very end, I say, but we're paying this amount. And we just said, like, I can't do it.
Yeah.
So as a business owner, it's so important to know what the individual seats are, and then highlighting what you said with knowing your people and having real-time feedback, because people grow and they learn things about themselves. They might take on a responsibility like managing for a week because their manager's out. And they say, I really enjoyed that. I really like being over the people. I really enjoyed monitoring their reports and KPIs. But one person that always sticks out to me, for if you're an employee out there listening, is that we have someone named Elsa who works in our marketing department as the creative designer. Yeah, as a creative designer. Mm-hmm. However, 2 years ago, she came on to Hype Farm as a school fundraising and realtor program salesperson, because she had door-to-door experience. And don't get me wrong, she was great at that. But she overheard, I forgot who she overheard talking about our need for, you know, the creative push and what we're trying to put out there as a company and what we're trying to show as our brand. And she said, well, hey, I do design. And we're like, okay, cool. Like, that's awesome. A week later, she took on the project herself without getting all the responsibilities, and then submitted it to us and said, hey, I think you guys were talking about a website revamp. I made you guys a website revamp and what I would do and what it looks like. And we were blown away.
Yeah.
And so right there, right then, we knew, hey, if the pay is right and the work-life balance is right, can you come in and work in the design? And we totally dropped that position because we knew the return on someone being in a position that they actually enjoyed the responsibilities, that we'd have a much higher return, and we ultimately wouldn't be doing ourselves any favors by keeping her in a position that we knew that like her heart wasn't really there, and it was all for design.
Yeah.
And so if you're out there, you need to speak up, and you need to, let your manager know, let the owners know that, hey, I came on for this because I know you guys don't know me, but I would love the opportunities to lead, to run a training, to write a manual, all these different things that you might have talents for. You need to speak up, and you need to be open with your managers and leaders.
I just love it because it's so hard for me to say, but sometimes people don't want to be managers.
Yeah.
And they're almost forced to be a manager. And you think as a boss, like everyone's here to make the most money that they can, even if that means being a little bit uncomfortable with certain things.
Yeah.
So one of our field managers, Ian, was promoted to a field manager, and that position comes with, some added stress, especially if you don't know your people. And that's the irony of it all, is that, hey guys, I know that if you obey by the rule of 7 and you train your people up as a manager, your life will be so easy because you have 7 talented people to help you out.
Yeah.
But if they aren't trained, guess what? Like, your life is miserable. And that's why I think it's funny when a field manager or any manager comes to me and says, my work-life balance is horrible. I'm stressed out of my mind all the time. And I look at them like, that's on you. Like, I've given you, if I had 20 people on your team or 14 people, then I understand.
Right.
But you have 7 people. Spend the extra hour every single day. Imagine, and I don't want to get on the tangent of 7 here, but imagine if you spent 1 hour, even 30 minutes for 2 weeks with each person on your team, how much better they would be in 2 weeks from now. Like, It's unbelievable. But Ian asked to be stepped down because he just said, hey, I don't like doing the manager responsibilities. I don't, I want to be out there and I want to kill bugs.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Not everybody wants to make as much money, and that meant a pay cut for him. And like, you just have to be okay with that. And sometimes as a business owner, you have to change your mindset that not everybody thinks the way that you think. And that's okay, because if they did, then they probably wouldn't be working for you.
It reminds me of a clip in Ted Lasso. I probably butcher who did it, but he was asking one of the soccer players, like, who do you want to be like when you grow up? And he's like, why would I want to be anybody but me? And Ted Lasso says, like, I don't know if you know how incredibly healthy that is. And so there's a lot of people that we say, hey, what about this opportunity and this? And they're like, no, thanks.
Yeah.
And you're like, excuse me? I just know me. I know I don't do well managing people. I'm not very patient. I love coming to my desk, hitting on my specific responsibilities, and going home, if that's okay.
Yeah.
And there's a part of me where I'm like, I don't know if you know how incredibly healthy that is. Like, you know your limits. You know what you want to do. But I think you highlight a really good point that we've been hitting on for the last week, I'd say, is that every seat inherently has a responsibility to talk about the bus and talk about when they see something, to say something. And so we've had this epiphany in the last couple weeks that when we go in and kind of clean house in a department, not even intentionally trying to clean house, but just saying, hey, the manager quit, for whatever circumstances, and we go in. A lot of people, like, what crushed me the other day is when, an employee said, yeah, Cam, like, they were meeting with both of us, and they said, there's just a lot that's been going on where I wonder, like, why would Cam even allow this to happen? I was like, man. But then I reflect back and I say, how many times have I gotten in front of everyone and made them feel safe and allowed them to feel safe to bring up problems? It's like if you're about to take off on a plane and you look out and the wing is something falling apart, you're going to start screaming saying, do not lift off. Where every employee now, we're saying, hey, you have your seat. This is the bus that we're on. This is the direction that we're going. There's going to be a few seats once we get into certain destinations that are going to open up. In the interim, if you see something going on with the bus, let us know. If you see someone slacking in their responsibility, let us know. On the contrary, if you see someone that just goes above and beyond and you don't see them get the recognition you feel they deserve, please mention it. And I feel like naturally as a whole, as we start to define the seats better, and as we get bigger and start adding more seats, it allows, everyone to see, okay, we're growing. I see Cameron's telling us where we're going, and I can see everything. And now I feel a sense of responsibility to say, I know Cameron has this value and this value, and what this person is doing is going to slow us down, and it's not right.
Yeah.
And I know that we've had a few of those conversations in the last few weeks of people saying, hey, this is just some things that I'm seeing as well.
And that's why I love the training that you gave is trust your gut, right? On Tuesday, you sat down with all the managers and you said, hey, you guys need to trust your gut. And that's the best thing that we did as business owners when we started our company is we wore every single hat in that department. We were customer service rep, billing, routing, salesman, retention, you name it, we did it. Reservice tech, we heard it all. And so if you're a business owner out there and you thought, hey, I'm just going to buy this company and I'm just going to be the ops guy, that's cool, but you need to go learn every single department because then you can know when something's off. You have that gut feeling that someone's maybe not on the right bus or someone's on the right bus and not on the right seat. Yeah. And that's what you have to rely on. And that's why I think it's so interesting. We've been asked to come into a couple of different, quite a few companies over the past couple of months to just kind of give our advice, right? And it seems like there's always someone that has something to hide that they're embarrassed about, whether it's keeping someone employed for a certain amount of time, doing something a certain way, like a service or paying for something, like whatever it might be, they want to hide it. They're embarrassed about it. What I would encourage you, if you're that person listening, if Evan and I were going to come to your office today, what would you be scared about? What would you want to hide from us because you were embarrassed? Is that a person? Is that a process that you're doing? Whatever it is,
or not
go
doing.
fix it or not doing. Go rip the Band-Aid off today. It's going to be miserable for a couple weeks. But guess what? You're going to become a better company because of it. And that's trusting your gut. That's making the changes. That right seat, right bus matter. Because think of it. If someone's on the right bus, but the wrong seat and they're miserable, what does cancer do? It goes and infects everybody. Yep. And you got to change that as a business owner. But most business owners are scared to react. Yep. Now, what I will say, because this is the advice, because I've done it wrong, my good buddy Rob, back in the day when someone would piss us off or we felt like you weren't on the right bus and I need to fire you, I would fire them and then I would just go be the technician. I've become a little bit more patient. Okay, let's make sure someone else is behind there that can come in as a technician so I don't have to drop everything. But there are times where you got to roll up your sleeves and enough's enough. You got to stop it and you got to make sure that you're taking action, because most entrepreneurs will just drag it out. I don't want to deal with this. There's too much going on. And then they, next thing they know, there's 2 months gone by and now they're dealing with 3 other problems because they didn't react to that one problem. So just pull the Band-Aid off, man. Quit being a pansy and get it done.
No, listen. So as it pertains to right bus, wrong seat, okay, there's a lot of variables that go to nailing this down. That is, one, having the actual seat defined. That's all the way down to the title, the individual responsibilities, and the KPIs. The next best practice is to understand your people on a deep level so that you can help them see how, one, they might be a good fit for the seat. They just need to learn a certain characteristic or attribute, or you can better scale your company by, I'd say, vastly moving people to the right seat because of a certain talent or ability that they express.
I like that, because sometimes they don't see the power that they have within themselves.
Exactly.
And if you're knowing them and you're seeing the opportunities and you're seeing things that they don't always see in themselves, you can say, hey, have you thought about this position? I think you do great at it. Sorry, keep going.
No, get to know your people, know the seats, define them, make more seats on the bus, and help them understand where they're going. And it'll take your business a lot further than just you making guesses or building your business around certain individuals.